Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. And of course, good morning to the entire world. We are going to have a great show for you today. Of course, we're getting to the world via the magic of the internet. And you know, sir, what's happening? Now controlled by the billionaires. But you know what, folks? We're going to make sure to take it back. You can see right now I'm a bit under the weather, but that won't stop us from having a great program. But without further ado, let's pass it back to the studio.
Well, you should stop screaming in your sleep. Like, no.
No, bozo, no.
Yeah. We go again. Good morning, Egberto. It is Tuesday, the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. And I have no April Fool's jokes because we were warned about that. They said, do not have any April Fool's jokes or fool around. So there we go. And we must also mention that our programming is informational and instructional and yada, yada, yada. So there you go. Jack, what you got, man? You got a half a page of wisdom there.
Yeah. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, my dear brother. I'm doing fine. As long as I try to control my volumes, I think I can get through the day.
Okay. Hang in there. All right. Corporate media continues to twist the truth into a narrative that does not serve the people, claiming the policies from the left are radical or dangerous. In truth, American citizens want progressive policies like Medicare for all, higher minimum wage, and abortion rights. Democrats need to go full left and reclaim what it means to be a progressive Democrat with policies that serve the citizens, not the billionaires. Not the billionaires.
Well, we are seeing some pushback here with the Bernie and AOC bandwagon going on around the country. I'm waiting for him to come to Texas. So I want to get into that crowd and go, yes, you guys, tell us all about it. So,
I am ready when that happens, man.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's going to be a big media event. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So, you know, Beto and Tim Walz were in close in area. I think it was near Conroe. And actually, it wasn't Conroe, but a friend of ours went to look at it, and she sent us some pictures. So we broadcast all of those so that everybody could see. People are getting engaged, even here in Texas. So it's a great thing. Anyway, folks, go ahead.
Have to push back.
Yeah,
this what's going on is wrong. We have to push back on it.
Yes,
it is absolutely so.
Well,
but anyway,
Jack, let's go ahead and fade into the background and quit hijacking Egberto's show.
Well, you know what? Let's stop calling it Egberto's show. This is our show, and it's a people's show. That's what it really is. But anyway, folks, let me ask you something. If you saw somebody, you saw a kid on a ledge of a 5,000-meter drop, would you just mind your own business, or would you go ahead and try to do something about it? If you are watching, if you have the ability to stop an earthquake, would you stop it, or would you just let it happen because, well, you're minding your own business? I think it is time for us to look at what's happening, educate ourselves as far as what's happening, and do something about it. The first story that I want to cover today is what very few want to admit. But we had a great, from fundamentals, I'm not talking on a personal basis because there's a lot of problems with our economy. There's no doubt about that. The income disparity, the wealth disparity
the wealth, the bad distribution of wealth, all of that is true. Most of the money is going to the top. But the fundamentals of the economy that was given to Donald Trump was one that could thrive. We could have made the adjustments necessary that all people would benefit, because the changes that we would have made would have meant we would have taxed the rich. Yes, because the rich have been living on our backs for eons. And that is not some communist statement. That's just a statement of fact. The rich has been pilfering us with a smile. They have allowed us, or not allowed us, they have conned us into supporting policies that are not good for us. And we have people now that are really fighting back, as Howard spoke about before. Bernie Sanders and AOC are doing a great job going around the country. We have a lot of neoliberal Democrats talking about, are they the best messengers? In reality, yeah, they are. And they are the best messengers because they best represent not just Democrats, they best represent the working class. And the working class is comprised of cultural Republicans, those people that have no business being Republicans, but culturally they're Republicans, and Democrats, progressive Democrats, not neoliberal Democrats, progressive Democrats. So they are the best representation of the Democratic Party to go out there and sing those messages. Now, you have to ask yourself the question, why is it that the big, except for a small coverage by, let's say, some of our MSNBC hosts, why is it that it's not getting the coverage that it deserves? I don't know if you remember 2009, when the Tea Party movement started. What was interesting is that the media did everything to attempt to make that movement seem bigger than it was. And let me tell you, I was an integral part of the. There was a whole lot of Vance, who works for Obama, had a movement. It was a liberation movement that we worked on, and we would fly to DC often to work on this movement of people getting engaged. And we would go on the mall, the National Mall, and we would see all these cameras, ABC, CBS, NBC, with probably 30 or 40 Tea Partiers with your crazy hats and all of that on. And they would all have those those tight shots, where when you see it on TV, you'll see 10 people in the shot screaming. And to the TV audience, it looked like there was a whole lot of people. But being there in real time, there were very few people. Coffee Party, we had a big event on the mall. I think it was 2010. And, we were supposed to bring in about 6,000 people, but we got a snowstorm, and it only, on the day of the event, it only brought in about 1,000 people. And we're on the West Mall, and we have everything set up. No media showed up for what the Coffee Party did as a count, and this particular action was a people's actions, people speaking action. Nobody showed up. I see the repetition in what we're seeing today. We get a whole lot of people out there fighting for America. My friend was out there in near Sugar Land when Tim Walz and Beto O'Rourke was out there. She had over 1,000 people out there, protesting, listening. And all throughout the country, we had thousands of people protesting. And you look at your general purpose news, you don't see the amount of people that are doing it. And except for Rachel Maddow and a few others, it is almost as if it's not happening. Well, when we tell you that the media has an effect on your democracy and policy, that is what I'm talking about. If Americans don't know that Americans are fighting for their freedom, if Americans don't know that Americans are out there fighting for their Medicare, their Medicaid, their SNAP, their Social Security, and their leave of their work leave, and all, if Americans don't know that, then it has a tendency for people who are not in the know to throw their hands up and say, well, things are never going to change. I want to let you know that your American brothers and sisters are out there, and they are out there educating themselves about the fraud that's occurring in our national politics. And they're also out there participating in making sure that people know what's happening. Before I go to the Bernie Sanders tape, I came across a tape that I did a few years ago on single-payer healthcare. And the reason I think it's appropriate to play this now again is as Congress is writing their new bill to take away your benefits from healthcare to Social Security to Medicaid, as they're out there doing that, you need to be educated about all the lies that you're going to hear. And this particular one on single payer, I think, is apropos for what's happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this one, and then we'll come back, talk a little bit, get into the Bernie Sanders tape, and then move on from there. But here we go.
Folks, we're in life-changing times now. We have a president in office that, based on what he has done and who he has appointed to do certain things, are not just destroying the nation, but putting each person's individual health, both financially and medically, at risk. We have been trying to move into a healthcare system for a long time. This battle has been going on for decades to give us a humane healthcare system, one that sort of has some similarities between Canada, the United Kingdom, France, Australia, and these other places. You know, maybe a combination of those, but pretty much a single payer system that ultimately makes more sense, takes out all of the inefficiencies of healthcare, of paying for healthcare. That's what single payer does, you know. As I'm thinking about that, I recall an interview with a Dr. Danielle Martin I think it was in about 2014 or so, where she was challenged by an ill-informed, more likely a willfully ignorant senator that tried to malign single payer, and also had somebody in the House talking about people leaving Canada to America for healthcare. What Danielle did, Dr. Martin that is, did, was she, for all practical purposes, embarrassed the senator into showing that the Canadian system, with all its flaws, are way superior than the American system. And it is one that we could learn from, first of all, by getting rid of the private sector insurance companies for basic care. We should get rid of Medicare Advantage. We should get rid of private health care, and it should all be in effect from our general funds. But let's listen to what Dr. Danielle Martin had to say several years back. What's ironic is it still holds true today.
Dr. Martin, in your testimony, you note that Canadian doctors exiting the public system for the private sector has had the effect of increasing waiting lists for patients seeking public health care. Why are doctors exiting the public system in Canada?
Thank you for your question, Senator. If I didn't express myself in a way that to make myself understood, I apologize. There are no doctors exiting the public system in Canada. And in fact, we see a net influx of physicians from the United States into the Canadian system over the last number of years. What I did say was that the solution to the wait time challenge that we have in Canada, which we do have a difficult time with waits for elective medical procedures, does not lie in moving away from our single payer system towards a multi-payer system. And that's borne out by the experience of Australia. So Australia used to have a single tier system, and in the 1990s moved to a multiple payer system where private insurance was permitted. And a very well-known study by Duckett et al. Was tracked what took place in terms of wait times in Australia as the multi-payer system was put in place. And what they found was in those areas of Australia where private insurance was being taken up and utilized, waits in the public system became longer.
What do you say to an elected official who goes to Florida and not the Canadian system to have a heart valve replaced?
It's actually interesting because, in fact, the people who are the pioneers of that particular surgery, which Premier Williams had, and had the best health outcomes in the world for that surgery, are in Toronto at the Peter Monk Cardiac Center, just down the street from where I work. So what I say is that sometimes people have a perception, and I believe that actually this is fueled in part by media discourse, that going to where you pay more for something, that necessarily makes it better, but it's not actually borne out by the evidence on outcomes from that cardiac surgery or any other.
People prefer their system because they know consciously they pay more. No, I think it's because they judge quality and they judge innovation. Ms. Pipes, in your testimony, you noted that more than 42,000 Canadians come to the United States each year for healthcare. Why is that?
Because they find that they're on a waiting list in Canada for too long a period, and they feel that their health is at stake. So a lot of people in Canada come to the U.S. for MRIs, CT scans. There are many examples in the media of people like Brian McCreath, who came to the U.S. because he was told by his primary care doctor that he might have a brain tumor, but the wait for an MRI was very long. He spent the $1,000, came to the U.S., paid out of pocket. You will see advertisements in Canadian newspapers for MRIs, for neurosurgery.
It's a pretty fertile ground to market in.
Right.
Dr. Martin, in your testimony, you state that the focus should be on reducing waiting times in a way that's equitable for all. What length of time do you consider to be equitable when waiting for care?
Well, in fact, the Wait Time Alliance in Canada, sir, has established benchmarks across a variety of different diagnoses for what's a reasonable period to wait. And what we've found is that actually working within the single payer system, we can reorganize things. You know, I waited more than 30 minutes at the security line to get into this building today. And when I arrived in the lobby, I noticed across the hall that there was a second entry point with no lineup whatsoever. Sometimes it's not actually about the amount of resources that you have, but rather about how you organize people in order to use your queues most effectively. And that's what we're working to do, because we believe that when you try to address wait times, you should do it in a way that benefits everyone, not just people who can afford to pay.
On average, how many Canadian patients on a waiting list die each year? Do you know?
I don't, sir, but I know that there are 45,000 in America who die waiting because they don't have insurance at all.
I live 1 hour away from the Canadian border. Canadians watch American television. Canadians are very familiar with our political system, probably know more about politics in America than most Americans know. Is your prime minister a socialist?
No, sir. Our prime minister is quite conservative. He's the leader.
Conservative.
Yes, indeed.
So obviously, as a conservative, he wants to implement the American healthcare system that the Canadians are very aware of. I gather that was probably the first thing he did when he took power. Is that right?
Not exactly.
Why not?
Support for single-payer Medicare in Canada goes across all political stripes. Quite famously, we had the leader of the most right-wing party in a Canadian federal debate on television hold up a sign in the middle of the debate on which he'd written in marker "No two-tier" as a means of trying to reassure the Canadian public that if elected, he would not dismantle the.
So in other words,
system.
You have a nation bordering on the United States, two nations that are probably as close together in so many respects as any two nations in the world, a conservative prime minister, and yet there is no effort to move to an American healthcare system. I would say to my colleagues, there's not a better example of maybe how people feel about two systems. They know the American system. They have a conservative prime minister. They can move in our direction, but for whatever reason, and I think sensible reasons, they understand that a system that guarantees health care to all of their people in a cost-effective way is the way that they want to stay. Ms. Pipes, let me ask you that question. Why do the Canadians not come to the American healthcare system?
Well, as I mentioned in my testimony, about 42,000 Canadians every year come to the U.S. and pay out of pocket for assistance.
That wasn't my question.
No, I just made that. I wanted to make that point first. Second, the Canadian government and the provinces who administer the Canadian healthcare system, this started in 1974. A lot of people in Canada have no idea of an alternative system.
Oh, my goodness.
No.
They live an hour away from me in Burlington, Vermont. They watch American television. They read American newspapers. They have no idea of what goes on in the United States of America. That is a little bit hard for me to believe.
I would say that Canadian people are very, very nice people. They're not impatient like Americans. My mother said to me, I hope you're not becoming an impatient American. I am an impatient American. Americans do not want to wait. Canadians are very nice.
Well, I think,
says, and then the second.
Ms. Pipes, I have a limited time.
Yes.
I think the answer is pretty clear. The Canadians have seen the American system. They prefer their own.
Now, America, we have the Trump administration dismantling government. We have the Trump administration trying to privatize government for all practical purposes. And in that process, even the portions of our healthcare that is sensible, the single payer portion of our healthcare that is standard Medicare, not Medicare Advantage, standard traditional Medicare, and the Veterans Administration standard as well. They are trying to gut it and convince everyone to go to the private sector. I want you all to remember this. Whenever you include the private sector in something like healthcare, your healthcare premiums go to the pockets of the executives who profit from, who will always have a profit because they don't provide services unless they have a profit, as well as the shareholders of that insurance companies. Those are humongous costs. In other words, your payment before a dollar goes to solve a problem in healthcare, before it goes to your heart attack, before it goes to your lung cancer, before it goes to anything, those executives will be paid and those shareholders will be paid. And if there's somehow a shortage, they will make sure to deny you service. Remember, for-profit insurance companies make their profits from denying you care, denying you services, denying you drugs. A public single-payer system is the only solution. We can call it whatever you want, healthcare for all, Medicare for all, whatever you want to call it. A one entity paying the bill eliminates all the executives, advertising, shareholders, the whole works. This is not rocket science, but they depend on you being ignorant not to support what's best for us all. A single payer healthcare system. Let me tell you something, guys. I never forgot when I wrote the book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. One of the things that I did, because the big issue was whether, first of all, Canadians knew about our system, or whether Canadians also, given a chance, would they prefer our system. So what I did is I randomly called 50 Canadian telephone numbers, randomly 50 numbers in all their provinces. and asked them, one, if they knew about how the American system worked, and would they consider adopting a system like America as opposed to their system with these huge wait times. And the first thing they told us is there are wait times for elective surgeries, but if you have a problem, your problem is solved right away. You got a heart attack, whatever, but things like a knee replacement, all of that, yeah, there are wait times. But the thing that got me the most was two things. They laughed when I asked them, would you ever consider supporting a system like the United States? And the second thing is they asked was, why are you guys so foolish to accept that? And that the last question is true. And that is what miseducation does to one. That is what being ill-informed, that's what it's all about. And we have, for too long, allowed certain media and others to do just that. All right, before I go to the Bernie tape, the phone lines are open, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Sorry for the hoarse voice, but I'm getting over, the latent part of you know what. Anyway, let's go to Augie. Augie, line 1.
Hey, man, you sound great, man. You ought to use that voice more often. But anyway, when I moved here to Houston, I lived in Katy, and I had a Canadian primary care doctor. He was the best doctor I ever had. I had him for 3 years. And those 3 years, he complained about the American healthcare system, about the Medicare United company and the health insurance companies that said he hated working with them because they were telling him what he could and couldn't do and what he could and couldn't charge. And if people really want to know about the American healthcare system, they should have seen C-SPAN when Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, was being discussed, and they had a bunch of Americans come in and talk about how bad the American healthcare system. One of them was a sister. Her sister worked for a company and paid into a company insurance, but she never had many medical problems until she's getting ready to retire. And she's getting ready to retire, and her doctor tells her she's got cancer. So she reports that to her healthcare provider, and the healthcare provider said they'll call her back. They go through her records and found out she had a pre-existing condition. So they said that she had lied initially when she first
applied for insurance
in part of the healthcare system. And the pre-existing condition was she had acne when she was a teenager. So they denied her cancer treatment, but they said they would give her back her money that she had contributed for that insurance. And because she couldn't get cancer treatment here in the United States, she died. And that's why her sister came to talk about her sister dying under the American healthcare system. And there were more horror stories. There were so many bad ones, I had to just turn it off. And on 60 Minutes, there was a show about an American company was paying its employees to go to South America for any big operations. They flew in first class. They put them in a 5-star hotel. They paid for everything, even paid them their salaries if they would go to South America for their healthcare problems, their major ones, major surgeries, because it was more expensive here in the United States for that company.
That is amazing. That is amazing, but you know what? It happens all of the times. And, India and many of these countries now have, they cater to Americans by having these very nice hospitals that's like hotels and convalescent areas to recover. It is amazing how even doing all of that with your airfare, it's cheaper than getting service here in the United States. It's a shame. Continue, sir.
Yeah. And one time I went on a medical mission trip to Mexico. It was far south near the Guatemala border. And, man, it was something to see these natives coming in for health care that we provided. And the worst part of the trip was on the last few minutes of the last day, when there's still people wanting to get some treatment. We had to cut them off. But that was back in the 70s. In the 90s, the same thing happened here in the United States. 60 Minutes again followed. There was a medical mission trip to the United States, and different parts of the country, in the South and in the Midwest and in the West. And now there are Americans in line. Again, medical care, dental care, prescriptions from these volunteers from another country. And again, they saw you saw the line of Americans wanted help, and they had to cut them off. And it was sad how that turned out. And
I saw
people don't even see that.
I saw one of those 60 Minutes where they went into Appalachia, and that guy with a RV, whatever town he went into, the line wrapped around the school's parking lot where he provided service.
Correct.
Most Americans, especially in rural areas, don't understand. I find it. I had to say it this way. I find it so evil that the people who support the party that does not provide decent health care don't understand what they're paying for and what they're losing. And that's why our program, educationally, and by the way, Augie, you as a funder of this program as well, it's so important that Americans out there, and if you're listening in rural America and don't know this stuff, that is why it is so important that we continue to push forward with this message. Americans are dying, and we don't have time to play this ideological mumbo jumbo. That's why when I talk about MAGA is my friend, I am actually talking from a humane point of view. That they're ill-informed, I get it. But at least we're going to continue to try to work. Augie, anything else before I jump to Bruce?
Okay. Well, I have an Australian friend who's a doctor, and his wife has medical problems, and so did he. And we were talking, and he gets his prescriptions from Canada, not the United States.
Yeah.
Because they're so much cheaper. He gets them through the mail. He said, I should do it.
Same prescription. You can get it from Canada or Mexico. Same prescription, sometimes a quarter the price. Thank you very much, Augie. Thank you, brother. Let's go to Bruce. But hold on, Bruce, a second. I want to lead a beer cat says lots of people come from Mexico to America for care. Guess who are those people who come from Mexico? People with money. If you have the money, America has the absolute best healthcare, bar none. If you have the money, it has the absolute best healthcare for a very few that money can buy. That is not to say that other countries don't have great healthcare. They do, just as good as ours. But as a concentrate, if you go to the medical center in Houston, if you go to the medical center in Baltimore, you can find a concentration of great health care if you have the money to buy it. All right. Come on in, Bruce.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
I have medical stories, but I'm not going to go into them right now. I'm going to go on something else very quick. If I said Egberto, I'm going to stick my head in a potato sack full of bobcats because it's gutsy. You tell me, no, Bruce, it's stupid. When Trump met with Al Gore, he's a master propagandist. He knew that the MAGA base would think he heard all the evidence from the horse's mouth and his great intellect that says it's baloney. Same thing with Morning Joe. Well, Bill Maher and Trump will find, they both know that there's no common ground they're going to find. But Trump's going to get a propaganda hit, the same one I'm talking about. And Bill Maher, his next show that airs is going to get a high rating because people want to hear what he has to say about the meeting. So he's being a ratings whore. And I think he should just decline the invitation. It disappoints me that he's going to the White House. I'm done.
Yeah, well, Bruce, Bill Maher has changed completely. I don't know what happened to Bill Maher, but it's not an ideological change. It's a dishonest change because he is looking for ratings, as you just said. And I personally have stopped watching him because I won't be one of those Nielsen blips for him. But anyway, thank you, my brother. You have a wonderful day. All right. Welcome, Jacqueline Campishi. She says, good morning. I'm a teacher, and the insurance the district provides is horrible. I pay monthly, and then I still have to pay every doctor. Wait until I meet my deductible. I get it, my dear Jacqueline. I think you like Jackie better. Jackie, I get it. And you know what? That's why we want single payer. We have to get everybody educated. You are educated, but education doesn't come just a politics done right or a Substack article or one of those. I'm going to tell you, Jackie, you are an educator. First of all, I want to give you kudos. I don't know if you've read any of my books. I don't know if you've read any of my articles. But if you have, you would see that I think you are in the most important profession, bar none, as a teacher. You are the one that moves knowledge forward. Now, that said, we need you to not just educate your kids, which I'm positive you do a great job in doing. But you got to get to your teachers, who many times themselves are ill-informed based on false ideology. But a lot of them have your trust. They may not have my trust based on their own ideology, but they have your trust, you as a teacher, you as somebody they work with. As a teacher, you have found ways to talk to your class. And what I'm going to suggest to you humbly is, as a teacher, find ways to talk to your teachers and educate them as well. As more of them become educated, they will dictate not only the insurance they get on the job, but the national insurance of our country. It takes time, but we have to do it. And Lisa says, thank you for doing what you do, Egberto. Go gargle with some salt water. I'm going to go do that after the program. But again, thank you for what you do, Jackie Jack Campishi. All right, I have one other video to print for you, and that is with Bernie Sanders and progressivism. Let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll be right back. Dana Bash, yesterday on State of the Union, at the end of it, she said that two cartoons made an impression on her. One was where the cartoonist sort of made fun of the signal problem with Hegseth and all these other guys put in sensitive information, classified information in a signal chat. And the way the cartoon did it just kind of made it just one of those things. The other thing is that she did the cartoon of them talking about Democrats. And it's about Bernie Sanders saying we didn't turn left enough. And what they show is that Democrats turned left and went over the bridge and fell into the river or the ocean or whatever. And people might look at that cartoon and say, well, I tell you what, let me just play the piece first, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Two political cartoons that caught our eye this week. Here's a sheep among the wolves in Donald Trump's war room, courtesy of Rob Rogers. Plus, Senator Bernie Sanders suggesting that Democrats needed to turn further left after the party already drove off the bridge. That's Michael Ramirez of the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
All right. Anybody that's looking at that cartoon, first of all, they discount the severity of what was done by the Trump administration by conducting the type of business, military business that they did on Signal. Okay, it's a cartoon. They made fun of it. Understood. But Dana Bash picking it up the way she did, in contrast to the Democratic one, it left a sour taste in my mouth for this reason. The idea that you will pick up a cartoon that says, well, Democrats turned hard left and they think they didn't turn left enough is a ludicrous comparison. It's a ludicrous assessment of what occurred in the last election. It shows a mindless disregard for reality. The truth of the matter is that Democrats never did turn anywhere leftward in this election, in many elections. I'll be honest. Biden was more leftward in his legislation than Kamala Harris actually campaigned. That's a statement of fact. The truth of the matter is, when asked what people want, the Democratic Party is not near left enough to support the American people. And when you specifically ask them what they want health care. They want good Social Security. They want all these things. They want family care. They want child care. They want to have all these things affordable. They want a minimum wage that is a living wage. They want to have good drinking water. They want all these things. You poll them, and all of these things are north of 60%. But our media is allowed to tell Americans that somehow the Democratic Party has gone too left. Too left for what? Oh, well, you guys not only talking about that, but you're also talking about trans. What's left about saying, listen to people's humanity? Don't go killing trans folk. Oh, well, they support the gay agenda. No, we support the agenda of human beings. We have allowed the right to corrupt the media via the techniques of the Powell Memo, the Heritage Foundation, the Cato Institute, and all these institutions to simulate the fallacy of what progressives specifically and Democrats in the aggregate represent. The big problem with Democrats, and this is true, and that cartoon gets it right in that one regard, they didn't turn left enough. Because what Americans need is a change that shows they will get a better part of this economy. They will be able to be true participants in an economy, true participants in their own healthcare, true participants in society, and not have to go through the pains, the aches of continuously transferring their wealth to the middle class. Tariffs, transfer of wealth to the middle class. Doge, transfer of wealth to the middle class as the government comes in, or as the private sector comes in to take over all those laid off workers. What you get? Lower paid workers, and that differential in pay goes directly to the shareholders and the corporate executives. Look, there is no doubt here, folks. That cartoon that you see there was simply placed to continue the indoctrination, to make people vote against their interest, having the false belief that Dems are too left, that progressives are too left. Look, the only Dems that are not left enough are the neoliberal Dems, but all the rest really want to get where the American people are. And you know what? By hook or crook, we're going to get there. Again, we're going to get where the American people say we're going to get. Glenn Ryan, welcome to Politics Done Right. Glenn says, and what did the Democratic Party deliver for us as far as healthcare goes? A big reward for the health insurance industry. Stop voting Dems, vote Green. Glenn wrote a paper that we are going to go over in the near term. I'm glad you brought that up because I probably should do your paper this week on Politics Done Right. I went out with Glenn for coffee, and Glenn gives me a hard time every morning that he can about realizing that that the Democratic Party is out of step with where the American people are. And he's right. And his solution is green. My solution, I think, is engagement and change. And his answer to that is, well, how long have you been trying that? My answer, too damn long. And he says, doesn't that require a change? My answer, yes. But does it mean, let's say one goes to a Green Party, he has to show me the path. And he wrote a paper, convincing paper. I don't know that the paper gave the actual path from that point on. So like I explained to Glenn when we went out to coffee, progressives, the one thing we as progressives have to learn is whether we agree or disagree on particular issues, specific issues, we understand that progressives represent America, the reality of what America is. And those of us who are leading the progressive movement must never allow disagreements on specific issues to stop us from working together to make life better for Americans. So Glenn Ryan, my brother from another mother on the chat right now, we'll continue to work together to make life better for us all. All right, let's bring Brian in. Brother Brian, come on in.
Yeah, I'm on. All right. First off, Elon Musk is going to send 3 astronauts into space, and no one in the media is talking about it. I think it's a beautiful situation made right here in America. And second point I want to bring up is I would rather have a journalist in a chat between defense secretaries than 13 dead soldiers and $86 billion worth of military equipment left behind. I would take that meeting any day. You understand that point?
Yeah. But it makes no sense, my brother. Just as well as that journalist is, let me explain why it makes no sense. That journalist doesn't have any kind of security clearance. If that guy was a traitor, he could have pre-warned the Houthis of what was coming, because we knew the attack was against the Houthis. It was in the chat. Okay? So that statement was a statement of appeasement to the people you like. Now, secondly, with regards to Elon Musk is doing nothing that we didn't do back in the 80s. He's not doing anything we didn't do back in the 90s. Elon Musk is just using the technology that all of us created over the decades, and he has yet to get anything outside of the atmosphere, or rather, outside of our planetary orbit. So I don't find Elon Musk brilliant like many of you have been conned into believing. If you want brilliance, drive up to NASA Road 1 and talk to some of the engineers that I worked with back in the 80s. And I can show you the people who actually got the orbital mechanics done that Elon Musk is programming into those spaceships that he have right now. And these are
Absolutely no comparison.
I am not, sir. Let me, Brian. What I'm telling you here is not conjecture. It's something you know nothing about. You know nothing about this. You can talk your head off. I've been there. You haven't. Thank you so kindly for calling. Let's go to Harry. Come on in, Harry. Okay, we'll get to Harry in a little bit.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. There you go, Harry.
Yeah, we just pressed Harry's button. Come on in, Harry.
Good morning, Egberto Willis. I know you've got that frog in your mouth. I'm praying that you'll get better soon, and your pipes will be back to the way they usually are. Anyway, you know the Jib Jab organization, the Jib Jab cartoons. Remember them? The political cartoons.
Oh yeah, I love them. I love them. Yes, sir.
Yeah. When Obama, when he was running, and they did a cartoon on let's see, they did the ones with something I grew up on with the Super Friends, the Legion of Doom, and that cartoon really worked when they put Obama in it. They need to do that with the neoliberals, and they need to do that with the Republicans. They need to do that because those cartoons tend to register. They need to do that with Elon Musk, the other one, Peter Thiel, and the other one. They need because those will make Americans think. Those kinds of cartoons, I really like those cartoons. They really hit home. And Jib Jab needs to do those kinds of things. And Bernie Sanders and should be involved with that, and AOC and the rest of the progressive Democrats to paint what these Republicans and neoliberals really are. Those Jib Jab cartoons really hit home.
I agree. Agree with you, Harry. There are a lot of different ways to present information. And I think you're absolutely correct that we need to find other ways. And you're right. I got to go. We're running out of time. So let me get to David and then Patrick. Come on in, David.
Oh, thanks. While you're talking cartoons, being in these Trump times, I'd recommend one that was around about 10 or 15 years ago called Piranha Club. It's about this fraternity of evil con artists and how they ruin the society. And there's the example I'd have specifically was a guy buys a piece of property and then he intentionally allows the trash to build up on the front lawn and, the house to fall into like wreckage. And he's trying to bring down the property values in the neighborhood so he can buy it all up. And so, yeah, it just describes Trump to a T, where he's intentionally trying to ruin America's reputation so he can buy it at a
discount.
Say it again.
You want to buy it at a discount.
Yeah, exactly. It's called disaster capitalism.
Oh, wow.
Culture capitalism.
Yeah. And, hey, David, I got to go because I got two more calls, but you nailed it, brother. You nailed it. Disaster capitalism. Let's go to Patrick. Patrick, give me about a minute.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. To Brian and other people that are impressed or disappointed that we're not more excited about space. I'm disappointed that I was born into society that 93% of the people that work don't have enough money at the end of the month to cover all of their expenses, that we can't retire our people in dignity, we can't educate our people, and when somebody gets sick, we ask them how much money they have, and we're launching people into space. How can we afford to launch people into space but we can't take care of our own people? That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Patrick. You nailed it. Thank you. Let's go to Anthony. I'll see you at 3, Patrick. Anthony, come on in.
Yeah, I know we've been talking a little bit about NASA and your time there. And I was curious to find out what your opinion is about Werner von Braun.
The German that actually did a whole lot with the rockets, good engineer. Why?
Yeah, but you know his background, right?
Nazi, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to stir up the hornet's nest. I just, I learned about his history and how he came about coming to the United States and how our government was behind it. And I just feel that it was probably done for the right reasons, and we needed to get the jump on the Russians in the space industry. But
let me just say this with Van Braun, right? It would still be. Let me just say this: America on its own had its own intellect and the ability to build these rockets. That his intellect was used as well. And by the way, that's way before my time. But again, America is a big country with a lot of smart people. Most of them never, ever get in recognition. And it has a whole lot of posers who get a lot of recognition. When you see Elon Musk with his chainsaw and running around talking, you can't be developing rockets and technology when you're out there in the public eye doing that kind of crap. All the work is done by other people, other real engineers, other real scientists, other real intellects. And that isn't Elon Musk. And what we have to get away from in America is somehow looking at those with capital and thinking that is equivalent to intellect. That is equivalent to progress. It is not. Give me a closer, Anthony. You're the last call.
I was just curious. Yeah, I was just curious what your opinion would be. Would we be in the same place that we are right now without Werner von Braun?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt. Let me tell you, industry is not made on one person. And whenever we start to believe we're in an island, that is where we fail. Van Braun was just one of many. And to think that his intellect was the only thing that got Gemini, or the one before Gemini, on all these off, would be a fool's. Yeah, it would be a fool. Mercury. It would be a fool's errand. No, we would have been in the same place, just with others stepping up, just like you would step up where somebody else hadn't. So thank you very much, Anthony, for your commentary. Okay,
thank you.
All right. Anyway, folks, sorry for the voice. I'm going to go gargle as Lisa told me to do. You can get the rest of the program at politicsdoneright.com / newsletter. You can talk to me directly at kpft at politicsdoneright.com. I'm going to throw it to the studio real quick and then come back.
No, nothing here. Go ahead and take it home.
All right, folks. Thank you so kindly. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know in this baby, I am what? Out.
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.